And let me know what part of the world you are listening from. Super excited to chat with you today. Okay, we are live. So the most stable live stream is over on YouTube. So for those of you, if there is some kind of interruption, because occasionally we get that here on Instagram, and you want to head on over to YouTube, it's a more stable signal there. So welcome. The topic today, 3 keys to hitting high notes with ease and consistency. Your voice is an instrument inside your body. So learning to use your vocal instrument and training your voice with a solid technique like my cold vocal method is the key to hitting high notes with more ease and consistency. High notes are the first thing to go when the voice is not fit or healthy, or when it is not strong, okay, when it needs more vocal strength, okay, and then when the path of the voice is interrupted or constricted, okay. So I'm going to go over 3 of my 5 tips that are on my weekly blog. So each week I put out a blog on Wednesdays, and then we have a conversation on our lives discussing that blog. So you don't have to take notes. You can head on over to the blog and it's all written out for you there. And there are some more exercises that I can't get to in the live that you may want to practice over there. So head on over to caricole.com/blog. And feel free to, as you're tuning in, let me know where you're listening in from, what part of the world, what state you're in, what country you're in, what city you're in. I love to see how global we are. So our subject today, 3 keys to hitting high notes with ease and consistency. The first key is setting up the right alignment. So the first step in setting up your voice to really hit those high notes is to set up the right alignment. Alignment plays a huge role in the alignment, or posture plays a huge role in the singer being able to reach those high notes with ease and especially with consistency, right? So much so that techniques and therapies that improve a singer's posture and alignment greatly improve the vocal path and clear up the vocal path of the voice, improving vocal production and reducing vocal problems in performance. So the right alignment and posture helps the body provide the right support for the singing voice, alleviating tension at the throat and providing the right support, which is the second tip I'm going to talk about today for how to do that. Most people have a slightly slumped chest, a slightly dropped chest, and a forward head, right? So most people are slightly dropped here and their head is forward. So we want to get the head back over the body and the chest nice and lifted. So you'll notice in really good singers that are executing technique correctly and have really healthy and powerful voices, we don't see slumped chests. And this is because of we're on our devices all the time. We are kind of a forward culture. Also, the weight of the head is 5 to 10 pounds. So when the weight of the head is forward, what is going into contraction to hold the weight of the head over the body? Does anybody know? What muscles are going into contraction when the head is forward, right? Can anyone guess what those muscles are? It's our neck muscles, right? So our neck muscles are holding that 5 to 10 pounds of the weight of the head over the body, and they're going into contraction. And guess what contracted voice neck muscles do? Can anyone guess what that is? What do contracted neck muscles do to the voice? Well, they constrict the voice, right? So they cause more tension. They cause the singer to sing from the throat more. So that alignment of getting the head back over the body. So we really want to imagine a scarecrow, okay? Like the stick of the scarecrow, and you know how they pop the head on top? Well, think of popping your head on top of the spine, right? Instead of being forward, right? And so some people, focus on posture and then they push the chest forward, right? And then they arch the back. What we really want to do is pick up the head, take the head and set it on top of the spine. So it's balancing on top of the spine. This is a little bit of Alexander technique, which I incorporate into my technique because Alexander technique was designed to help singers through the use of the proper alignment, restore their singing voices. And this really affects high notes because you'll see a lot of singers. I have a bubble in my throat. You'll see a lot of singers pull their chin up to reach high notes. And what's happening when they do that is they're actually constricting the back of the neck. They're tightening the back of the neck in order to, they're using the back of the neck as momentum. They're relying upon the squeezing of that muscle back there to get that higher note. But the problem is when you do that, when you shorten the back of the neck and tighten, it pulls the palate down, and the palate, the soft palate inside the mouth, it pulls it down and creates less space inside the mouth. And for high notes, we need more space inside the mouth, and we need a lifted soft palate to be able to get those notes. So, and you may see singers doing this, by the way, and still sounding good. Like you may be like, well, so and so did that, and and they sound good. Well, you don't know what vocal issues they're dealing with over time, and there would be a lack of consistency with that because you may or may not get it right. And what's happening is you're adding extra tension here to the body. So that is the body's way of compensating. We call that a compensatory muscle, using the back of the neck as using a compensatory muscle, a muscle that compensates for the lack of strength at the actual vocal muscles and using the voice correctly. And over time, using the back of the note, the neck will cause strain, and it will eventually lead to nodules and vocal problems. So you can see how important this is. And in the Alexander training, when it was developed by a man and his son who were losing their voice on stage, and they wanted to develop using alignment to actually improve the health of the voice. So it goes along with the health of your voice, but it also unlocks or opens up those high notes quite significantly. So good alignment sets your body up to avoid constricting, over tightening the neck muscles, the back of the neck, the sides of the neck, which causes vocal fatigue, limits range, inhibits high notes, and can cause problems over the time. And initially you might, like I used to do it all the time before I was trained, because that it's the closest muscle that the body is going to use. But over time, it will cause vocal problems, and it will certainly interrupt consistency and cause breaking and cracking on notes, right? So over time, we learn in technique, and you can start with my Singer's Gift warm-ups that's always talking about all of these. Everything that I teach vocally is involved in all of my method, my entire method, the Cole vocal method, that starts with the Singer's Gift warm-ups. And really, I'm always talking about having the chest more lifted up towards the chin. So instead of pushing the chest out forward, we want to lift the chest up towards the chin while keeping the back of the posture straight. So we don't want to arch the back of the posture, right? We really want to get the head back over the body. And then the next piece is to think of expanding the chest wall, because we want to engage the pectoral muscles. So let's get into that, because we're going to talk about support. And if you head over to the blog, you will find this all written out for you, really nicely organized, and the exercises to try over there that I won't be able to get to all of them today. So the second key is setting up the right support. So the alignment comes first, and then setting up the right support. So the first step in supporting the voice is to understand that singing is a coordination of air and muscle, okay? And it's a balance between the two, right? And if we overdo the use of the muscle, instead of you hear that difference, right? So one is using the back of my neck and tension and more muscles, compensatory muscles, to create sound, and the other is sitting back with that compensatory muscle. And notice how I changed my alignment, right? And my alignment set back, and then I'm using the air more correctly. There's less strain at the throat. There's more possibility of connecting with the support and being able to hit those high notes, okay? So most untrained singers will overuse muscle and underuse air. And this results in vocal strain and loss of range and vocal problems over time, right? So no matter how strong your voice or technique is, there is a natural strain, wear and tear on the voice in performance. So singers, like athletes, really have to train in their coordination to be able to have the precision and excellence and consistency and ease in performance, in particular for high notes. To be able to do that repetitively without burning out over time, right? So to set up the right support after, improving your alignment, like really getting that head to sit back over the body instead of being forward, right? We really want the head back. So we want to push the chin in and tip the chin down, but not overdo it. It's just the chin really needs to be level. But in today's culture, we are like this. We are slightly dropped. And notice the difference. Notice what's happening here. So I'll put one finger here on my chin and one hand here at my chest. And notice the connection, right? So a lot of people are just naturally sort of like this. So the back of the neck is a little bit shortened. The chin is sitting a little bit up, the chest is dropped, the shoulders are pronated, and the pectorals are short. And this is really bad for singing because then you're singing only from the throat and you're not connected to the support of the pectorals and to the support of the breathing as well. It affects the breathing. So if I just do this simple motion, watch what I'm doing here. So all I'm focusing on, I'm not even really focusing on my chest. I'm just focusing on my chin, okay? And I'm going to do this. I'm just going to pull my chin down a little bit and back and lengthen the back of my head, right? Almost kind of press my head back and my chin down. So from this to this, okay? And notice how my chest naturally lifts in reaction to that, right? And that's a better way to set up your posture. Now, if when you do this, you feel tightness in the back of the neck or things pull, that's because your muscles are too short in the back of the neck. And we want to work through Feldenkrais exercises and yoga to begin to stretch out those muscles so that to be able to have this kind of posture is more natural, and it's not what you're feeling when you feel a little tightness is you're feeling the shortness of that muscle. So when I start to lengthen it, you're going to feel it in the upper back because that's where the neck muscles insert, right? So over time, and when we work with you, my vocal freedom circle, or you come in and work with me privately, we make all these corrections and very quickly make these corrections and get things set up and get you doing the right exercises that are going to support the right alignment and provide the right support for the body. Because as long as you're disconnected and the chest is dropped, right? You don't have access. The diaphragm is up, it's not down with air in the lung. You don't have access to the pectorals, which are the first muscles that anchor the laryngeal muscles. So you'll never see an opera singer singing with the chest dropped, right? The pectoral muscles are always prominent because they actually are the first muscles that the laryngeals anchor to for that. And when you're singing high notes, you have an increase in breath velocity, air velocity hitting the vocal folds. And so you need to anchor down into the physical body. And we use a chest press, we use pectoral flexes and expanded chest wall and all kinds of things but it's very isolated. It's an isolated movement because the minute that you like press on the chest to create more strength and connection to the physical body, it's easy to tighten the back of the neck, which is not what you want. You really want freedom back there in the back of the neck. So these are all very isolated movements, and they're all taught within my co-vocal method. We do have a vocal coach certification program happening. Our Vocal Freedom Circle is a prerequisite to that program. The Vocal Freedom Circle, we're doing an evergreen. I'm probably going to run it still live once a year. I'm not sure yet. But right now I'm reformulating it into an evergreen. I'm hoping to have it out in the top of May. I'm not sure if I can pull it off because we're getting ready for the vocal coach certification. But I wanted to give one more 8-week run. It's an 8-week course that teaches my entire method, that comes with over 75 exercises on audio and video that are supported, that are have all these techniques within them, within my method. And you have the opportunity to do that because if you're really interested in training and understanding the biomechanics of the voice, and this method is based in vocal science, you might want to join our vocal coach certification program, which is for interested singers, not just vocal coaches, who want to spend a year working on their technique with us. And it starts with that 8-week vocal freedom circle. So stay on the lookout, join our list, watch and see when that goes again. And those of you that have taken VFC, we open up registration for the vocal coach certification program on May 15th. And there is a link in the bio to join that waitlist, so you'll be the first to be notified and get the deepest discount. It's going to be incredible because we're going to have a whole workout series of physical exercises that you need to do to really support alongside the technique. And we go much deeper into the technique. And there's a library of, oh gosh, I think it's 250 exercises post the initial 75, which are in the foundation of the co-vocal method. So the areas of support are the chest wall, the pectorals, the rib cage and intercostal muscles, the abdomen, and the back. And the alignment position is really important to set up the right alignment so that you can isolate those muscles that you need for technique to create that support. And the third thing that I would say is important for hitting high notes with ease and consistency is the next piece of it is to strip away the compensatory muscles and increase the strength in the core muscles. And what I mean by this, someone mentioned earlier in the chat that they actually learned to use the back of the neck to support sound, which initially will give you a little more strength, but it will inevitably burn the voice out and even cause vocal problems and nodules. So it's very important that you correct that and don't use the back of the neck like that, especially over continued singing, because you will end up with vocal problems because it causes constriction, it causes more tension on the vocal muscles, way more than you need. So in the process of technique and in my method that I teach, we first strip away the compensatory muscles, and I'll explain what those are in just a moment, because we want to stop using the muscles that are interfering and causing tension and lack of support, and we want to strip away their involvement in singing and lengthen those muscles so that they're not contracted and constricting. And I'll tell you the muscles in just a moment. And then we want to, as we do that, we strip away the compensatory muscles that compensate for the lack of strength at the core of the voice. And then we increase the core muscles of the voice with particular biomechanical movements that actually strengthen the voice down at its core. So during vocal training, one of the processes is first to identify which muscles in that particular singer are over functioning to produce sound, and which to compensate for a weakness elsewhere. So common compensatory muscle patterning is a complex name for a relatively straightforward process when primary muscles do not work properly. And in the case of the voice, they need to be developed actually. The brain tells other muscles to perform that movement instead, right? For example, the jaw may contract when making sound, in an effort to control the pitch or the tone, when the pitch or the tone are not controlled with the jaw. So the jaw is jumping in to assist the vocal production because the brain is telling it to, or the back of the neck kicks in for the high note, but the high note is actually constricted more with the back of the neck being overly contracted, right? And this is compensating for a lack of strength at the core of the voice, right? So during training, we strip away the compensatory muscles that constrict and even damage the voice to provide a freer vocal path for the voice. Some of the compensatory muscles that are overused are the tongue, This is all the base of the tongue, and the base of the tongue, compresses on top of the laryngeal muscles when you're singing a high note to try to give it more resistance against the increase in air pressure, but it doesn't do the best job at it. It actually causes more tension. So singers feel choked, right? And in our method, we separate the action of the tongue and the laryngeals to create way more freedom and precision when hitting high notes. The neck, the back of the neck we've been talking about, and the neck itself. The jaw, we talked a little bit about. The laryngeal muscles, some people are super tight here. And we want to be nice and free and open here. And then the abdomen. So you see a lot of singing teachers, they'll talk about tucking the abdomen in. The abdomen is engaged in singing, in particular with high notes, but you always want to think about it as almost more of an outward motion than an inward motion. Because right now, just everybody tighten your stomach. Just tighten your stomach. If you feel how it immediately affects your voice? You immediately feel it. So I was not trained, and I don't believe in pulling the abdominal muscles in at all. It causes vocal problems. There was a really good case study of that in the 90s. I think it was when Janet Jackson had her comeback tour, late 80s, 90s. She got really ripped in her stomach. She was wearing midriffs, and she was dancing, and she looked like amazing. And she had the six pack and everything. She had vocal problems, and it was related to the over tightening, the over contraction of the abdominal muscles. So that's an example of some of the compensatory muscles that are often overused or used in the wrong way. You can find out more information on the blog. I want to open it up for questions from you guys, but keep in mind, as you train your voice, you will learn to, with my method, with the co-vocal method, you will learn how to stop using the compensatory muscles and at the same time strengthen the core muscles, and then learn the correct motions to actually improve those high notes, lift the palate, drop the tongue, connect to the pectoral muscles, and be able to really sing those high notes with ease and freedom, and open up your range and expand your range. As we strip away the use of compensatory muscles, we align the alignment to support the vocal path, and then we reveal the core voice to strengthen. The untrained core voice is very weak often. And as we perform that technique, we can strengthen those movements and coordinations of the core instrument to build vocal strength, accuracy, and consistency in singing. So let me open it up to you. And you guys would start with the Singers Gift Vocal Warm-Ups. You'll find the coupon in the link in bio that you'll save 25 bucks off of it. So go and grab that just for starters to learn all of these key things that we talked about today. Let me open it up for questions. So put questions in the comments, anything to do with voice, anything that you need help with, pick my brain, anything that you're struggling with or need a little bit of extra guidance with. Feel free to put comments in the chat. I'm looking on YouTube and I'm looking on Instagram. Instagram is functioning really well today. I am streaming on Twitter, but I didn't check to see because I haven't done it really on Twitter before. I think I did it once. Oh, I see it there. But I don't know if I see. Okay, I have that open just in case anybody wants to put comments on Twitter. So any questions from our wonderful artist community and singer community on singing better high notes or just singing better in general? Any questions, feel free. Okay, good. Here's one. Do you like to consider the method blowing a balloon and storing air to understand how to hold our breath? Or what about the method of laying down with heavy book lines? Yeah, those are both helpful tools. The idea that you are inflating a balloon and then you're keeping the air subglottic underneath the vocal cords, but it's tricky because without really fully understanding that, the singer can then start to hold the breath, and that's not what we're focused on. It's a little bit more of an advanced technique when it's executed correctly, that allows you to, and first, before you do that, you really need to release the ribs. So watch my mini voice lesson on Instagram we just posted today about the secret of diaphragmatic breathing and opening the ribs, because once you do that, then you're more set up to retain air correctly. And lying on the floor, using a book, heavy book on the abdomen to breathe into it does help. It doesn't have to be that heavy though. But it does help to, when you're lying flat on the floor with your knees up and your feet flat on the floor, so that your lower back, make sure your lower back, you've got that position and the lower back is into the floor. So you're not arching your lower back, because that will impede the correct breathing. So when you do that and you put a book there, and you'll notice when you breathe, you're going to breathe into the stomach. So into the abdomen. So those of you that have trouble really connecting with the abdomen, that can be a great tool. But there's a lot more to it than that. And a lot of singing teachers don't talk about breathing into the ribs. So watch my diaphragmatic mini voice lesson. And while you're there, give me a heart. Let me know that you visited. And that you heard about that, because that really came from my studying with a student of Ida Rolf, the structural alignment technique of Rolfing, the body work technique. I've done a lot of work in body work and a lot of work in natural health that I bring into my method. It's a holistic method. And so that part of it is not as simple as just the book, but that's not a bad thing to focus on if you need help opening up and connecting to the abdominal. But actually, the pectorals are even more important. Garrison says, do you have any tips on mic stand setup for proper form throughout a performance? Yes, very much. So you want to set up your mic, like if you're playing on the piano, you want to set your mic like this so that you can see the piano, see the audience, and the mic is a little bit ahead of the piano, and bring the microphone to you. Always bring the microphone to you. I was just looking to see if I have my performance mic nearby. I don't. But you want to bring the microphone to you. If you're setting yourself up so you have to reach forward for that microphone, you're not setting up the optimal alignment for performance. And when you have a guitar, I play both piano and guitar. And when you play guitar, we tend to have a little bit more of a rounded, and with the microphone setup, you just have to fuss with it a little bit more to get that microphone coming into you, right? So you're not reaching forward for it. Kadron, while with contracting the abdomen, are you referring to over tightening before pronating? Pronating? Do you mean making sound? Pronating is dropping. Isn't there a natural contracting the abdomen sing? There is a natural engagement of the abdomen, and there is some contracting, but I'm always trying to keep singers healthy. And when you over contract, and most people, when you mention that, will over tighten and contract the abdomen, and it causes vocal problems. So the abdomen is engaged, but without the strength and support of the chest wall, you're only relying upon the abdomen, and you can cause vocal problems. How do you maintain, Jennifer says, how do you maintain your singing voice so you don't cause any damage? Everything that I'm talking about today. Start with my singers give warm-ups, because the health, a lot of vocal techniques don't have health at the core of them, and it's extremely important. This technique is based in bel canto and biomechanics, and 40 years of actual vocal science was at the foundation of this technique, and it was built on that. So everything that you do using this technique will protect the health and longevity of your voice. So all the techniques that I'm talking about today, like for example, the gentleman that asked about tightening the stomach, well, yes, the abdomen is engaged and there is contraction, but if you over tighten it, you're going to have problems here. So everything that I'm teaching you is how to build health and longevity. I can sing at the top of my singing for when I was performing professionally, at the top of my singing, I mean, like really performing. I could sing for 8 hours without losing my voice at all from this technique. And I came to this training because I was losing my voice. So I sang folk songs, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Cat Stevens, Jackson Brown, Linda Ronstadt, okay, Linda was a little more rock. But then I joined a rock band and I couldn't project, and I started to have vocal problems, and I ran to training because I'm like, if I keep singing this way, I'm going to lose my voice. So I went through a lot of different methods and a lot of teachers to find this one. And this one was the only one that had baked into it, based in bel canto, the actual correct motions of singing that are going to preserve and protect the health and longevity of your voice. With contracting, yes, I'm referring to over tightening before phonating. There is a natural contraction in the abdomen, but we want to think of it as a pushing out. Ah, not So again, many voice teachers tuck the abdomen in and contract. This is incorrect. This will cause vocal problems over time. You're welcome. My pleasure. Let me see. Let me check some other questions over here on YouTube. Um, do you want to feel resonance start in the mask and then pull it back in the soft palate like you're swallowing the note? Is my a good word? My to feel proper placement. It's not really. So the placement shouldn't be moving around. The placement should really be here, right in front of the ear. Whether I'm going down or going up in my range, I'm thinking of the sound starting and ending here and resonating here. So a lot of teachers will say push the sound forward. This is very common to me. This is a secondary technique that is not part of the primary core function of the voice and how it functions correctly. So when you throw the sound forward, you tend to go more nasal. And what singing teachers are trying to accomplish is more resonance in the mask and the front. But when you're singing more correctly and the head is aligned and the alignment is correct and you have the support, the sound will ring here, which does ring in the mask, but you're not over pushing the sound forward. The idea of swallowing the note, I call it drinking the tone instead of swallowing the note, because swallowing is like constriction. But just bring, like you're going to bring a glass, an imaginary glass to your lips, like you're going to drink, and watch what happens here at this finger, right? So I'm going to imagine I'm drinking. You see how that pops down, right? So it naturally drops down. So when you do that, you're opening the back of the throat, and then you're thinking of the sound coming towards you instead of pushing the sound out. But really, we want the ring here, and it's more. It's very confusing. Placement where you should feel the resonance. It's very confusing because you should not feel the resonance moving all over the place. This is incorrect. And a lot of singing teachers use secondary techniques that are not primary. Okay. Throw the sound here, throw the sound there. When you're balanced and you have the right alignment and you have the right support, you should feel the sound here, and you're not overusing the jaw or overusing the tongue or tightening or constricting. These will cause problems. So problems with placement can start very early on, or if the singer is performing a lot and singing incorrectly, then there's over compensation of muscles that are causing tension that you can't let go of in order to create that free vocal path. Think about it. When you play tennis and you injure your elbow, you have tennis elbow, they call it. So no matter what strike you're striking, forehand, backhand, all you're feeling is your freaking elbow, right? So when a singer over sings and sings incorrectly using the compensatory muscles over a period of time, they cause problems inside the body that then they can't find the natural placement. So it can be either a beginner or somebody that's a little bit more involved. I'll take just a few more questions. I know I'm over time. Oh, there's so many wonderful questions here. Yes. Fixing alignment, do body work, my friend. Go get Rolfing or structural alignment. Do yoga. Study Alexander training. That's my advice. What's another question? You do your breathing exercise and singer's gift. I can easily get lightheaded or dizzy. I think we talked about that in customer service when you wrote in about that. That's because you're either holding your breath. It's something to do with the breath management. And also, you said, I think in your email, something about that you weren't using a lot of tension. So, because it can be from overly squeezing or tightening. Like I had this little kid who just used to hold the back of his neck really tight, and he would sing and his face would turn red and he'd get dizzy because he's holding his breath and he applied way too much pressure. I don't think that's the situation in your case, but you're not in front of me, so I can't see you, so I don't know. Yeah, it could be carbon dioxide, but I would focus more on your support and your alignment, because something is off in the support and the alignment of the breath, and the support of the body. Yeah, well, thank you everybody for joining me. Hit the notification bell for when I go live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. We're building the channel over there. You'll also find all my mini voice lessons on Instagram, and also on the playlists on YouTube is even a little more organized. And what do I want to say? Yeah, and subscribe on YouTube. and join my list so that you get my email in your inbox every Wednesday. I'm here to support you, and come learn the method, you guys. You just won't believe the difference. This stuff really works, and it works right away. So I will see you next week. Until then, have a wildly creative and successful vocal practice this week, and I can't wait to hear from you next week. I'll see you then. Bye, guys.